Hey, we have big bad breaking news out of our nation's capital. Probably won't delight Trump or his platoon of highly qualified, dedicated civil servants, the ones that are just anxiously waiting to get the job going of undermining the fabric of our functioning government. Well, if that is indeed true, well, Democrats from around the country, they are beginning to fortify their strategies against the upcoming MAGA transition in our nation's capital. A certain representative from Maryland, a Democrat as it turns out, hours ago just announced a bold and courageous decision that is designed specifically to counter the possible upcoming aggressive weaponization of the FBI. We have that report for you right now, but before we tell you about Representative Jamie Raskin's scroll-stopping news, here he is, just yesterday, talking about some of those exact problems we could face in the next Trump term.
Do you think there are any issues inside the FBI around politicization, as many who voted for Donald Trump seem to say?
Well, undoubtedly, if you look at it historically, for example, during the COINTELPRO period, the FBI really was weaponized against Dr. King and the civil rights movement and the peace movement. There was, decades of the FBI being basically used as a political instrument. There's an interesting book about that, about J. Edgar Hoover by Beverly Gage, that people can look at. And so I haven't seen what the proof is that the FBI has been weaponized against a political party or the Department of Justice. Of course, this Department of Justice has brought charges against a Democratic U.S. Senator in New Jersey, a Democratic Congressman in Texas. And so some people just seem to think that it should go only in one direction. And if it doesn't, then somehow it's politicized. And I think that's what they mean when they talk about politicization in the deep state. The deep state, nobody's ever defined it. Apparently, it just means anybody who doesn't do the will of Donald Trump.
Congressman, you, of course, worked so hard around issues related to January 6th. And of course, the special counsel is now winding down the federal cases against Donald Trump. And I just want to read you this. You wrote this in the January 6th committee final report. You said, if President Trump and the associates who assisted him in an effort to overturn the lawful outcome of the 2020 election are not ultimately held accountable under the law, their behavior may become a precedent, an invitation to danger for future elections. A failure to hold them accountable now may ultimately lead to future unlawful efforts to overturn our elections, thereby threatening the security and viability of our republic. In the end, Donald Trump is not going to face accountability via the Justice Department for January 6th.
We'll just go back to the accountability point for a second. Donald Trump was impeached for his role in inciting a violent insurrection against the Constitution.
Well, here's an Occupy Democrats All Points Bulletin. As Raw Story reports today, Representative Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, announced Monday that he was officially running to replace Representative Jerry Nadler, Democrat, New York, as the ranking Democratic member of the House Judiciary Committee. In a letter to fellow Democrats, Raskin said he based his decision on the threats from the MAGA movement following the re-election of Donald Trump. After a week consulting most of our colleagues and engaging in serious introspection about where we are, I'm running today to be your ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee in the 119th Congress, the Democrat wrote. This is where we will wage our frontline defense of the freedoms and rights of the people, the integrity of the Department of Justice and the FBI, and the security of our most precious birthright possessions, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the rule of law, and democracy itself. Raskin said he has already seen familiar elements from Trump's previous administration on the spectacular pay-to-play corruption, the overt plutocracy, and unrepentant misogyny and racism, the cavalier lawlessness and contempt for the Constitution, and the determination to make government an instrument of fear and cruelty. But this time, the MAGA movement has not only a trifecta, but a complicit Supreme Court waiting in the wings and a dominant media propaganda system parroting all the lies. He warned House Democrats must stand in the breach to defend the principles and institutions of constitutional democracy. Raskin also praised Nadler for his remarkable half-century of service in public office in New York and Congress. If I'm lucky enough to be chosen for this responsibility in the 119th Congress, I will turn to Jerry first and throughout for his always wise counsel and political judgment, he vowed. New generations of Democratic leaders in the House, well, they'll look to him just as we look every day to our great leaders Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, and Jim Clyburn as we take the fight to Jim Jordan and an emboldened MAGA movement. Well, that's a movement that gets bolder and bolder with each passing day. And the days, they do pass quickly now, so every Democratic profile and courage is worthy of note moving ahead. Thus, the great news from Representative Jamie Raskin. It comes at a most welcome time, as there are 49 passing days left between here and January 20th.